This week on Broke Things Under Sail.
Alright, she's out. I'll never do this again. She's slowly disappearing. The kitchen doesn't work, refrigerator doesn't work, shower doesn't work, toilet doesn't work. I don't know how bad it is in the tanks, but this is pretty bad here. It's got loose wires arcing onto the bike everywhere. Yeah, we got a significant amount of work coming up, so let's see if we can pull this off.
For the last month, this old boat has completely taken over our lives. What started as a simple plan to salvage a few parts turned into weeks of crawling through mold, hauling equipment, sorting through decades of somebody else's projects, and trying to save anything that might help keep Sand Dollar going. But eventually, every project reaches a point where there's nothing left to save. And standing there watching the crane lift out the last major pieces, I wasn't really thinking about the boat. I was just relieved this chapter was finally over.
Alright, she's out. The last thing to take out before we can cut the boat up, so I'm done. Brutal work, man. Brutal work. I'll never do this again. But at least I got what I needed. Sorting through and seeing what I got. The storage unit is a mess. So this is everything I got from that other boat. And it smells like mold and rotten mildew boat in here. And our good sails are sitting down there, so hopefully they're not getting infected by these sails, which came from the old boat. Yeah, that's what we got going on in here. All of our stuff from the boat is packed in the back. Yeah, we got the boys to work cutting it up. Done a pretty good job already. They've already ripped the top off and they're starting to rip the wood out. So yeah, that's the state of her now. And I'm finally officially done with her. So I've moved all the parts, everything of value is in storage, and then I moved the big stuff under another boat and covered it, so I am done. So I've handed it off to these guys and they're just gonna cut it up until the keel's left. I'm done sweating in this boat, man. It was a hard month.
At this point, things were really starting to pile up. I was overseeing the destruction of the parts boat, sorting through a mountain of salvaged equipment, and trying to figure out how we were going to put Sand Dollar back together. Every time I crossed one job off the list, 3 more seemed to take its place. There was an engine rebuild underway, broken bolts buried deep in the block, diesel leaking into the bilge, an injection pump that needed rebuilding, algae in the fuel tanks, and a hole that was demanding far more work than we planned for. The list just kept growing. And somewhere in the middle of it all, I realized I was running out of energy long before I was running out of problems.
A lot of stuff's been going on. Together, I'm actually going home for 30 days in a week because I really need the break mentally and just to get out of here and live halfway civilized, because where I'm living right now, it's pretty nuts, man. So it's just been really hard living conditions, hard working conditions, just monstrous amount of stress. What I'm trying to do right now before I leave in a week is kind of put the engine back together as best as I can. So one of the big issues we've been having, this is the electric lift pump. You don't want an electric lift pump on an offshore cruising boat. It just invites problems. That thing's failed on us a lot. If you lose power generation with your alternator, then you're gonna lose your lift pump and you're gonna lose your engine. So it's just a point of failure that can really take this whole thing down. I've ordered and got in a mechanical lift pump now. The crankshaft is gonna operate this thing. It's all mechanical, so nothing really is gonna fail on that bad boy. And finally, we can prime the motor now. Another couple issues I'm trying to sort is we've been running this engine in this boat without gauges the entire time. So we've been running it off of feel, which, you know, kind of sucks. We're gonna be completely rewiring this from factory to make it all simpler and a lot easier. This overheat alarm could not get that to work. And if you don't have a working overheat alarm, you're constantly worried about that offshore, which eats into your sleep. So one of the big issues that we ran into is our injector pump. These pumps need to be lined up perfectly with the gearing on the engine. Really, all you have to do is pull off this Allen keyed cover port here, and then look through there, line it up, and put a dowel pin in there to lock it if you want. So I thought it was this. So I ended up pulling this out, which is a machine shaft, which you're not supposed to do. And the issue with that, riding on that little machine shaft is little pads and clips and things that these levers ride on for throttle and things like that. So when I pulled that out, those fell in down below. When that happened, that obviously screwed the pump. That was kind of a big blow. It kind of hurt for a while trying to figure that out, but we found a fuel injection pump overhaul shop about an hour from here. And they say they have experience with Ford pumps, which is what this is. If they can fix that for us, that would be great. So the fuel pump's gonna be a while, probably not till I get back. So what I'm gonna start doing is building from the bottom up and getting as much on as I can before I leave. So I'm gonna start down here with the raw water pump. So the impeller looks all right. I'm gonna go ahead and replace it anyway, but that's probably why it was leaking out of the bolt holes. That gasket's like non-existent now. I'm gonna go ahead and clean these halves up, put a new gasket on there, and then put a new impeller in there anyway. And she should be good to go and leak free. There's another problem I just didn't realize till just now. It was split right here, and I just ripped it all the way off just to see. So that sucks. So I talked to American Diesel. I guess the only thing I can do, pull out this brass insert, kind of marine aluminum Permatex, make this surface, you know, back up to the correct thickness, sand it down, put another one of these inserts in. Well, I got a couple days left before I go home for a month, so starting to build it back up. I got most of the things back on. I got the raw water pumps back on, fuel filters are back on, heat exchanger or coolers back on. I'm gonna put the heat exchanger on in a second. I got these oil lines on. All right, little checkup on it. They've got all the deck gone. A lot of the inside gone. You can see the bones now. They're good in there. A lot more work, man. I'm glad I'm not doing this. I'll tell you that. She's slowly disappearing. With the last of the parts boat finally gone, I packed my bags and I headed home. After years working on the boat, it was good to see family again, sleep in a real bed, spend a little time away from the constant pressure of the project. And a big thank you to my parents for putting me up, letting me eat all their food, and giving me a chance to recharge. For a little while, life felt almost normal again. But anybody who knows me knows I don't like it that way for long. So before I knew it, it was time to head back to Chiapas, back to Sand Dollar, and back to the long list of problems waiting for me. Anyway, that's enough voiceover for one episode. Let's get to work. All right, I just got back. I spent 30 days in the US. I'm taking a bit of a break. Things are getting super overwhelming. They're still pretty overwhelming, but anyway, I'm back. I brought some stuff I needed. Natasha's also back. She's with Tiki downstairs. So if we get the hull fixed, which I'll show you guys later, the engine fixed, and not sure exactly what else, but if we can get that stuff done, we can get the boat back in the water and live back on it with a lot easier logistics. So that's going to be our first goal. This was our coolant tank, and the neck that was in it was actually cracked, and I didn't see it till it was removed. But that's why I kept getting coolant drying up and puddling up here. I didn't know why. The aluminum's looking pretty rough too, so I'm gonna have to sand all that down. I was thinking of using the coolant tank we pulled off the spare boat that we tore down, but it's in the process of failing. In that coolant neck, it's starting to bubble up. So that's pretty close to failure too, because the aluminum behind it is corroding and powderizing. I'm gonna have to use this Marine Tech stuff, which will bond to the aluminum. So I'm basically going to thicken this whole neck area back up with Marine Techs, sand it down. I'll have to figure out how to sand it down perfectly to fit this ring. Then we're going to put on this high temp epoxy, put it in its correct orientation. That'll cure, and then we'll drill out this overflow hole here through the neck. And then once that's done, hopefully this tank will be good to go. So this new neck is wider than the hole by probably an 1/8 inch or so. So maybe I don't even need to build it up with Marine Techs. Maybe I can get away with sanding it down perfectly and then the epoxy. But the challenge is going to be sanding this hole, you know, almost perfectly circular. We just got too much to do and too short of a time. So I put the yard on, grinding out all our blisters. We had really a lot of blisters, and some of them are pretty big, and they're definitely into the fiberglass now. They haven't even got all of them yet, but you can see some of them aren't so bad. Like, I think that's pretty decent fiberglass there, looks dry. But in here, you know, that's damaged. So we got to go a little bit further down. That's a pretty deep hole. We definitely got to go. Yeah, that's not good. We're going to have to go further down in there. So a lot of them are definitely got to go further in there. So it's a significant amount of work here. We got small ones pretty much everywhere too. It's hard to see. Hopefully these are just underneath the barrier coat. I think what we're gonna have to do is sand it all down anyway to bare glass and re-barrier coat it, unfortunately. So hopefully that'll take care of all the small ones. We won't be able to see how deep any of these small ones are until we remove the barrier coat, because we're not gonna grind those out. But there's big ones definitely way into the glass. I mean, look at that. That's gotta come out even more. Same thing with that. That glass is not in good shape. We really have the back like half of the port side still to grind out. And let's take a look at the starboard side. So it looks like they got to most of the big ones. Yeah, you can still see bad glass like that. We got to grind quite a significantly deeper on that one. I mean, that's pretty deep, man. We're talking about an 1/8 inch, probably more into the glass, and we still got to get that out. At least the big guys. So look at how deep this one is. It's pretty significant, but it looks like decent glass. Probably need to grind a bit more. But other problem is getting parts down here. So we're probably going to need a lot of acetone to clean all that stuff out too. We don't have any acetone, and they don't sell it locally because of drug reasons. So yeah, we got a significant amount of work coming up. So we'll see if we can pull this off. Took 2 days, but we got this thing sanded down to where it'll fit into about where I need it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and clean it out. There's a bunch of aluminum shavings in there, so we'll clean this thing out and then acetone both these surfaces and then seal it up. I've cleaned up the sanded inner ring there on the aluminum, and we got our high heat resistant epoxy here. So I'm gonna mix some of this up. I'm gonna put it on the outside of that ring, and we're gonna go ahead and insert it and let it cure. It takes about 24 hours. All right, it's in there. We're putting the motor back together after this kind of unplanned rebuild. So right now I'm just getting these oil lines sorted with this cooler. It's such a mess over here. They're so tightly packed in, and these lines do not want to bend. So I'm getting that all routed correctly. I'm a little sick right now, so I don't sound that good. And then I think probably the last thing we'll do is put on the injection pump. But I found a shop up north in Tapachula. They were able to rebuild it. So they rebuilt it, they bench checked it, so it's good. Once I get this thing rebuilt, we'll run it, check all the fluids, check for leaks, which there's gonna be a couple points. I'm pretty sure there's gonna be leaks like this elbow here, which is another whole story I'll run you guys through. So hopefully this doesn't leak, because that's gonna be a huge pain if it does. And then we'll move on to the gauges for this thing. This whole entire time we've been running the boat with no RPM, no engine temps, no voltage read, basically nothing. So we've just been running this engine off feel and sound, which doesn't give you much peace of mind while you're out there trying to get some sleep. So we've been temp gunning this engine constantly just to make sure it's good. Yeah, I mean, we really don't even know what RPM we've been running at. I got a bunch of stuff to fix that. So I'm thinking I'm gonna use some of this old reinforced flex hose as chafe guard on these lines. So hopefully they can take the temps of the engine. I'm pretty sure they can. So I got every spot that these things have been chafing on. So hopefully that'll stop that. And then I think now we're ready for, because the next step I'm going to be putting the heat exchanger and then start hooking up the coolant and saltwater lines. But I think it's probably smart to start messing with the injection pump now while it's open. So as long as this is still lined up, which is a big if, I should be able to put it right onto the engine, because I have not moved the engine's timing at all. It's the crankshaft is sat in the exact same position this whole time. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, see if it slides on smooth like it should. And if it does, I'll temporarily bolt it there, and then I'll see if I can double check it by maybe pulling the valve cover and making sure that the timing there is right, or maybe pulling the cover on the flywheel or doing something. I really want to secondarily double check this, and if so, we're just going to go ahead and give it a shot. We're going to go ahead and try to put on this fuel pump. We should be in business. It went on pretty smoothly, so we shall see. It's definitely stressful though. This thing has got to go right. We're gonna go ahead and do some double checking. I'll let you know what I find out. So before I finish putting on the fuel lines and all that for this thing, I already put the new solenoid on here, the new stop solenoid, so now we don't have to get in the engine compartment to shut it off every time. We could just hit that button, so that'll be nice. This is where we're at. We're doing a kind of blister repair and a re-barrier coating before we bottom paint, because it really needed it. There was a million little blisters underneath the previous barrier coat and above the gel coat. So we sanded it past that. You can see some of them there. So we'll fair all that out. So we're getting rid of all the small blisters, and the big ones have been ground out. There's quite a few. I've got 2 gallons of epoxy on the way. So hopefully that gets here in a reasonable amount of time. I say about 10 days. And then, yeah, we'll get to fiberglassing, building up patches on the big ones. And for the small ones, we'll just use thickened epoxy in an effort to get back in the water as fast as we can, because it's a lot more expensive for us to live in town. And not only that, the logistics of having to pay for a motorcycle and taking the dog back and forth and going to get food, it's a lot tougher. So I got the yard doing this, the grinding out and the filling in the blisters. So while they're doing that, I'm doing everything else up topside and rebuilding the engine and all that. And then we're gonna pull out and reseal all the hatches and windows. We'd rather do it while we're out not living in it, because it's gonna be pretty hot and muggy in there and tough to live while we do that. So, and then, yeah, we'll go ahead and throw her back in the water and move back on, and then we'll finish everything else we need to from there. I'm gonna finish up this tank job now. So the epoxy is set, should be good to go. It's looking good to me. So what we're gonna have to do now is drill out this overflow hole. We'll go ahead and put the nipple back in. Yeah, then I guess we'll go ahead and get her mounted. I set it like, I don't know, a 1/16 of an inch too high. And when I drilled out that overflow hole, it went right through the bottom lip. I didn't set this neck down low enough, but also I couldn't, because if I put it too low, this lip of the aluminum will catch on the cap right here. So I did it as low as I could, and I thought it would work. I'm just gonna fill all under here with epoxy, block off the hole. Then we'll run a bit through this hole to here. And yeah, hopefully that works, because that's what we're gonna do. All right, we did it. Drilled that little hole out there, and it's now connected to our overflow port here. I gotta put the hose barb on for the overflow port there. And then I gotta clean up the inside because we got shavings in there, so I'll take it outside with the hose and clean it all out. But yeah, I think we're gonna throw it on today. We got our new gasket, and we have our new thermostat. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and stick her on there. We got the down tube on, we got the overflow hose on, we got the air line on, or the vent line. Got that line on. I just have to put a little bit of sealant in here because it's not the tightest fitting, and the end here is bent a little bit. Tomorrow, I'm gonna come in here and put some fluids in it. So I'll come in here, fill it with coolant, and fill it with oil. We'll make sure nothing leaks while we're just sitting here. She's all plumbed in, hopefully no leaks. Right now I'm gonna remove the valve cover, and I'm hoping to see good news under there. I'm hoping to see that the #1 valves have just started the compression stroke, which is where this thing should be lined up. We had a ripped gasket before, so we had to throw sealant on it before, and it's still leaking. We're gonna pull it up, clean it up, check the valves, and then I'm gonna put a new gasket on, which I got up here, seal it up. So let's hope for good news. This should be the #1 cylinder, and it says that either the push rods or the valve should be loose. But anyway, the push rods are loose, so there's no force on it. So it might be in the right position. We definitely got some rust in here though. That's 100%, I'm sure, because of the whole reason we took this engine apart. It got hydrolocked and salt water got all over inside it. So there is some rust in here. So right now I'm gonna clean up the remains of that old gasket, and then I'm gonna clean up the rust and stuff as best as I can, and then we're gonna go ahead and throw this back together. Okay, she's more or less put back together. I'm also gonna put on the fuel injection lines today and rig the throttles. Let's cue up the hours of work in 1 minute montage. Do people even like montages? I don't know, let me know. That's about it for up here. So yeah, I'll go ahead and throw the harness on, rig these throttles, and then I'll put the breather on up here too. Forgot about that. Also, I gotta glue this data plate back on since I repainted the stuff. So But yeah, not too much left. She's looking good. She's looking like a real engine now. Okay, so she's been filled with coolant for about 14 hours. She doesn't seem to be statically leaking from any of the parts I was worried about, which is here, especially this elbow. So I think we're good on that front. I've put the engine data plate back on with some sealant yesterday, so that's drying. Yeah, so far so good. I'm happy with it. Got a couple other minor things in the engine room I'm gonna address. I'll show you guys. Our main fuel line that runs into our filters here, it's leaking at that union fitting, and it's been dripping onto our ventilation duct, and it's also been dripping in a couple places. So I have some new fuel line. I'm just gonna route it directly, cut out these weird elbows. Since we're having algae in our fuel anyway, any of these elbows will easily clog up. So now we're looking at the algae situation. So you can see algae all in my filters. So we're gonna try to figure out a plan to remedy this, because there's nothing worse than having your engine shut off due to your fuel filters getting clogged from algae. Anytime you start rolling around, you're in the engine room trying to blow the algae out of the lines, clean your filters, get the engine back started. But tank access is pretty tough also. Here's the starboard tank. You can see it's a giant tank, 110-gallon tank, but it runs underneath all of our electrical. There's really no easy way to access it without cutting up this entire floor. Yeah, it's a mess in here. I'm doing some electrical work also. Yeah, nothing's worse than algae problems in big seas, I'll tell you that. I think I cobbled something together. So I found this copper tube. I cut it. This should thread onto the filters. And then I've got this compression fitting hose barb here. So I'm gonna hook that up here, throw that on the filter, throw it directly to the fuel line, directly to the switching valve between tanks, and we should be good. Okay, so I got this made up. So now we'll go ahead and thread that into the filter. And that's just gonna be a straight shot now. So now we're not gonna have all those 90s and bends and everything for algae to get stuck in. Then I'll clean all the algae and crap out of these fuel filters, and then we'll go ahead and get it primed. Start getting some fuel in there and see if anything leaks. I just took the Raycore apart. This is the fuel that came out of it. I mean, that's like half algae. Nasty. And the bottom of that, and the bottom of our Raycore is some of the algae still too. Gross, man. I don't know how bad it is in the tanks, but this is pretty bad here. We got some filling going on here, so the boys started filling quite a few of them. So making quick work of it. Got quite a few left, but they were filling the other side too. Some of them we're gonna have to go after a little bit deeper. We'll slap some barrier coat on her and some bottom paint and move on. I think this thing's ran its course. We've been renting it long enough. But it's honestly pretty dangerous now. The brakes got issues. It's leaking gas onto the bike. It's got loose wires arcing onto the bike everywhere. It's just basically pretty sketchy. It worked for now, and also the guys were ripping me off on the rental. So I got a guy bringing a newer bike that I'm gonna buy. And then if I buy it, it should pay for itself in about 2 or so months. And then after that, when we get ready to go, we can sell it. So it'll basically be a wash. Yeah, we're gonna buy a bike. We're gonna be rolling around in style. Well, back to business as usual around here. Here's the new bike. Had to take it apart a bit. It's got problems. And I took it to a mechanic the other day. I got the front brake fixed and all the other problems. But now there's something in the back tire or in the brake drum loose. It catches, which is pretty dangerous. And there's some other issues. And they said the new battery was replaced, but the bracket broke, so it almost chafed through the battery right there. You can see that happened pretty quick. And there's quite a few other problems. And I did just wash her right now, so she won't start. So hopefully when all the wires and everything dry out, she'll start up. But yeah, it's always something, man. Let's see if we can get this thing going. The battery should stop chafing through. It's deep in there. I don't know how thick these things are, but I'm not gonna buy a new battery. So we got the front zip tied up now. I tightened that more. Hopefully that'll keep the chafe problem at bay. And then we'll have to figure out what's going on back here now. You see that washer in there? They didn't put it on right. So it was bouncing around in there and got caught. It fucked up the bearing of the tire, and it screwed up the brake shoe and everything else. So that's what happened. So we're gonna go ahead and take it in on the Old Faithful there, I guess. I just brought the tire back and they replaced everything they screwed up. So looking a lot better, but I think they even pressed in a new ring in there. But yeah, I don't know. looking good now. I don't know anything about motorcycles, but I think it's back together just in time too, because that back tire went flat again. Both these tires went flat on me recently and had to be replaced.
For the first time in a long time, there wasn't much more I could do that day. The bike was back together, the engine was slowly starting to look like an engine again, and the yard was making progress on the whole. There was still a mountain of work ahead for us, but for one evening at least, none of it needed to be solved right now. So we headed up to the pool, fired up the grill, and watched the game with friends. We tried to enjoy a rare moment of normal life in the middle of all the chaos. But tomorrow, we'll be right back at it. Next week on Fish Under Sail.
It's not looking good in there.
This lock broke on us.
That's why you don't lend your tools to anybody.
Oh, I don't like that. We're not going to be able to.
You happy?
I'm so happy. Look at all home.
Hey, big shout out to all you guys liking and subscribing. I really appreciate it.